So guys, in this tutorial I'm gonna show you how you can make an activity log. Let's say your character picks an item and you need to have the visual feedback for his actions. So this feature is for you. So before we start, I think we should make a kinda quick breakdown of the interaction system that I have here, so you can better understand what happens before the activity log widget appears on the screen. So here in my character, I use the point and click interaction. So basically I track the hit under my mouse to store the location. Next, depends on the context, whether this hit was near the area of my interactable item, I'd rather be moving towards the direction or try to perform an action. So my interactable class has the collision sphere, and I check if I overlap it. I simply should stop my character from moving and call an action called perform action. Or if it's not, I simply should continue my movement. So my interactable base class has a function called perform action, and you may see that it doesn't contain anything here. So basically this function is the general event, and for each particular interactable item has the unique logic. So all the children that derive from this class, like this one container base, has this logic. So here I try to call a function with the help of my equipment component, and I have a tutorial on the equipment component here on my YouTube channel. It's kind of long, but I think it's great. So I try pick and equip function call. So basically depends on the context. I rather can equip item if it's the weapon or piece of equipment, or store it to my inventory if it's consumable or the quest item, and so on. And after those actions happens, I have update log function calls. So I use them in my widget so I can build up the visual feedback for my actions. So that's how the interaction works, and now let's talk about some other stuff. So I think we should start with some data. So my item uses the structure which looks like this. It has a lot of different variables to store, so I can use them for different things. But what we need here is the HUD name. Also depends on the kind of information you want to show to your player, so to be shown on your screen. In my case, it's a simple name of an item that I've picked, but it can be an icon, so it's like the texture 2D, or some other stuff. So, and using this f item, I have the data table called items, where I fill up all necessary information. Something like this. So, moving up next, in my player controller, I create the widget. So basically we need to have two kind of widgets. Let's call it the main grid and the activity message. So it's gonna be the child for our main grid, because we're gonna build up the activity log dynamically. So inventory UI, you may see I have the WBP log, WBP log message. So they look the following way. It's a simple canvas panel, and I have the uniform grid panel here on the bottom right corner. And I have the size to context checkbox selected. That's it. Also make sure that your uniform grid is set to be a variable. As for the graph next, I'm gonna leave it and cover it further in this tutorial. Now let's check the log message. So also the canvas panel, the overlay, so I can store a lot of different elements inside it, and it's gonna be like the main container for all the child elements. The size is 200 by 50. It contains of the border with the custom material, so it has the linear gradient with sort of opacity from the left to the right, and the rich text element. Why I use the rich text? Basically so I can store like the general styles, and I don't need to modify all of my widgets if I need to have some new style. I'm just gonna use the data table and make changes right up here. So the size of the font, data spacing, the color, the outline stuff, everything here. Even I can use the textures for some icons. So next to the graph, here we need to specify two variables. The log widget, which is the reference to our previously created widget, and here on the left you may see that I need to check the instance editable and expose on spawn. And the item name is a simple string, which is also the instance editable and the expose on spawn. Right? So once you've done this, we can move to the next part. So I believe here in the player controller, once the event begin play starts, I create the log widget itself and add it to the viewport. By default, this one doesn't contain any child, right? So it's gonna be kind of invisible. But basically, visibility is default one, non-hit testable. And once we pick up an item, we're gonna update this log to build like the graph, and the message is gonna be killed with their own logic. So they won't be appearing on the screen and left there for like infinite time. So also make sure that that order is kind of high, because you may need to see this information not only on the main scene, like but maybe if you like I have in my game, if I buy some item or acquire the quest item, I need to show this widget on top of different elements. And we also need to implement the update log event. So we need some way to have communication between our character, our interactable element, our widget, our equipment system. So here we need to have the interface. I have mine. It's the general, for like general purposes, called BPI interaction. And here on the right you may see I have the function that I created called update log. For the inputs I use the reference to my item object. It's the base class of an item which doesn't have the physical representation in the world. So it's the simple raw data, which looks like this. So it contains a lot of different variables, a lot of different functions that I use for different purposes. It's not the case for this topic, for this tutorial. So let me close unnecessary stuff. So I don't need character. Let's leave it here. So the input for our interface function, we made it, we can close it. We don't need to have those also. So back to the player controller. Next, in place that you want to implement this interface, and I believe the controller is better place, maybe the best one. Under the class settings, here on the right, you need to press on the add and add the interface that you need to have. Like in my case, it's BPI interaction. Once it's done, here on the left side of your screen, you can expand the interfaces and select the function. I have mine, update log, and with the right mouse button, if it hasn't been implemented yet, you can like select and implement event here. Next, what it does, we check rather our log widget is on the screen, not on the screen, but it's been created, and if it's so, we call a function update log and provide the item object as a reference to this function. So that means that we need to go back to our widget, WBP log. Here on the graph you may see that I have two functions. The one is called update log, which look like this and has a lot of stuff happening here. And for this one we also need to have the reference for our item object. So once we pick up an item, we use it, we use this reference, so we extract the data and build up our visual stuff for our log message. And we also need one more function, just make it here and I'll explain it a little bit later. So back to our player controller, we made this function, we provide all the necessary data, and we can close the player controller right now. On the equipment component, or it might be implemented in different places. Let's say you have the overlap event interaction, so you overlap your interactable, and then once you overlap it, you need to call a function update log, provide the reference for the actor that you have overlapped with, and use player controller to call the interface, like to send the interface message, this one. So as I said, in my case, once I've equip item or like store it to my inventory, I call those functions using the interface, and that's it. Now back to our widgets, and that's the last part of this tutorial. So here you need to have the following elements. So let's create the variables. Last added message widget and the reference to our log message, this widget one. I also have message widget list, so it's the array of those log message widgets. Message widget list buffer, and this one is need to, like, if you saw the preview for this tutorial, you may see that I don't have, like, I have some kind of specific behavior of my messages, so they appear in a particular order and they like have the fade in out animation with some translation shifts and so on. So we need this buffer if we have like custom logic, so I'm going to explain it further in this tutorial. Also, I have two integers, the message count current, so that's how many child of those messages we have on our screen, and the maximum count. So basically, if we if our current equals our maximum, or we have higher of this one, we need to delete the first one and add the new one at the bottom list of our widget list graph. I also have the timer, because I need to check how long, how much time it elapsed till I need to clear all the messages. In case if I haven't interacted with an item in between this timer, and the floor time elapsed. So basically I use this flow to track how much time it actually elapsed. So here on the event graph I have two custom events. The first one is called prepare global clean. I need this one to clean all the messages if I haven't interacted with any item after some specific time, let's say 6 seconds, right? And this event, I call it every time I have the update log event happening. So the timer is looping with the time of 0.016. It's like it's like 60 calls in a frame, but you may call this timer less often. And the reference to the create event is this custom event called do global clean. So what it does, each time we have this function called, we're gonna be like adding the time, and we need to know how much time actually elapsed from the start of the timer. So we use time elapsed plus the world delta seconds, and if we if this condition is true, we simply need to do the following. We need to clear the timer, we need to restore our counters, so it means that we need to start the list from the beginning. So the message count current is 0, time elapsed is 0. The next one here, we're gonna iterate over the message widget list. It's the all our items, and we need to call the self-clean events on those widgets. This one. So be with me. I know it might be sound hard, but it's actually kinda simple. So I also have a tutorial. As you can see here, I have the for each loop with delay and break. It's the custom macro that doesn't exist in the Unreal itself, so you need to make it on your own. And as I said, I have a tutorial. You may check my YouTube channel for this. So this one brings the smooth transition between each element that appear on the screen and how they are fade out. Basically, it's not rocket science. You just need to add a delay node in between the logic. Just watch my tutorial, or you may I'm gonna leave it for a few seconds so you can pause the video and maybe recreate it on your own. But make sure that you implement this function in a custom global function library. This global function library should be derived from the widget class, not from the actor class, because some elements can be called in actors, some elements can be called only in the UMG widgets. So it's kind of very important thing. And if the array element here, and it's also important thing here, as we store our all our widgets that we have been added on our screen to a custom buffer, because this array element we're gonna modify, and once we are deleting our old messages, we don't need to be using the custom array, because it's gonna be cleaned and this can break down. So back to the log message. Here let's implement some things. So first of all, we need the event on initialized, and we need to set render opacity for our overlay, this element, to be invisible. Why we do this? Here I have the animation, so just press on the bottom part of your screen, and here you may add animation with the simple add button. I have several one. I have the fading side right. So here I have the render opacity on the first frame of 0, but once the animation happens, I change the render opacity to 1, and I also change the translation from from the 80 to 0. So that's how the animation looks. It's the appear animation. Like each element that should be added to it's the new element, it should play this animation. And the other animation is kind of opposite. It do the different stuff like this. So why I use this on initialized? Because if I'm gonna use this one on a construct, this animation will be played on all elements, because we are like rebuilding the whole hierarchy of this log message, all the uniform graph, because we need to shift all elements that we have on our indexes to +1, so they're gonna be placed from bottom to the high. So by default it's 0 opacity, but then we call play animation, and the play mode is forward. But on the construct event we need to update the text or the image, depends on what you prefer, and we have this kind of stuff. As I use the rich text, I need to provide the break, like the tags for the open and close, and the body, right, the item name here. So that's how the rich tag will know that it's going to be correctly represented on our screen. Also, I have the custom event called message fade out, which plays the animation of fading the message, right? So that's we call right up here, this one, on the do global clean function, right? And we have one more thing here on the left top side of your screen. You can override the function called on animation finished, and we just check what animation has been finished. If it's this one that we have on the message fade out, then we simply need to remove our widget from the parent grid. So we use the remove child, and as we have the log widget reference for our main grid, we simply need to call a function that I told you before, called remove from log list, and provide self as the log message. So this one that we created earlier. What it does, it needs to update the message widget list to remove an index so we can continue with our logic. So basically we find this message, this widget, in the array of our message widget list, and if this one has the valid index, we need to remove this index, remove this element from our array. That's it. And that's how the widget that we added on our screen will like appear update its info, and once it needs to be cleared, it's gonna play animation and clear it from its parent. That's it. Now back to the main grid, the parent widget, and let's actually call about the main function update log. This one we already made. This one we need to build. So each time we pick up an item, we need to clear the global clean timer, this one, because like if we pick up an item, we start this timer to check, like if we don't do anything here in 4 seconds, we need to clear all the messages. That's the logic. But once we pick up something in between this timer, we need to start the timer again, right? So we clear the timer, we update the time elapsed to 0, and we check the condition whether our current messages equal our max. If it's true, if they are equal, then we need to get the following from the main grid. This one, this element, we need to get child at a specific index. So from the count max, we need to subtract 2, and we have the reason for this one, because basically, as I have the custom behavior that I'm gonna explain right up here, it should be the second element. But to execute the function called message fade out, as this one is the simple widget, we need to make a cast to our log message. And as we know that this grid only contains, of those log messages, we can use cast, but not the default one, but the pure one. So here with the right mouse button, you can see we have the cast to pure or impure cast. As I have one already, I don't need to remake it one more time. And we call message fade out. It means that we exceed the maximum number of widgets we can store on our screen. So we need to remove the first one that have been added at the beginning of the list, right? And we need to subtract to decrease the current amount of our widget, so we can continue with the logic. And if it's the first element and the logic is kind of obvious, like if we have something, we simply need to do like this stuff, right? But if it's the first time we pick up an item, then we need to first of all create the log message. As we have the item object, because we have this function with the incoming item object reference, we extract the data that we need to provide to our widget. So from item data, it's our structure that I showed you right in the beginning of the video. I use head name to provide it here, and log widget, it's the reference for this widget itself. We create the log message widget. We store it as the last added message widget. Then we add it as a child to the uniform grid. But as you may see, it has the in row and in column. So this one should be added if we have the maximum count of, let's say, 4 elements, right? But we know that all indexes start with the 0 index. So it means that the maximum count of 4 in terms of the array or the indexes is going to be 3, because the first one is going to be 0, the second one is going to be 1, the third going to be 2, and the fourth is going to be 3, right? So that's why here I use -1, so it's going to be the first element in the row. Then I store this element to the message widget list array. I increase the counter and I call prepare global clean, this one, which gonna execute this one to start counting time before cleaning all the messages. Next we pick up another element and we check, okay, we have one element here active in our screen. It means that we need to shift the elements. So the first one added gonna be placed on the second row and the new one gonna be on the first line, right? And all newly added elements should be on the bottom list, and all elements should be added, should shift their position one on the top. So here I have the local variables for message widget list, and the index. I use the message widget list, I store it as the buffer, and I use reverse, so all elements should be shifted from there as I add them in the direct order. So the first one, the second, the third, and the fourth, I need to make it reverse, so each element should be added in the reverse order. So I iterate over this temporal list. I provide those elements and index as the local variables. I add child to the uniform grid, and the logic behind this is kind of simple. As I have the maximum count of 4, and I know that this one is going to be -1, so it means that the second one that we add after the first one should have the number of +1. So that's why I subtracted -2 here. That's why I have it right up here. And this element, stay with me. Then I set render opacity for all elements that are not the current one, the last one that we added, to have the opacity of 0.4. It's just for better visual feedback. We can also make the different, depend on the index context. We can have different size. It's all up to you. And after we done all this stuff, we have several elements updated, we need to make the new one. So on the complete, we create the new element which doesn't belong to this array list, and it's going to be placed on the first, on the bottom side of our grid. And each time we pick up the new element, it's going to be like this. Iterate over the widget, rebuild the whole graph, and then only then, after whole the graph was rebuilt, at the very end we just add the new element on the bottom of the list. So that's how it works, that's how it looks. Let me show you one more time. We pick up element, we add it here, let's make it right here, like this, like this, like this. We add one more, we add one more, the newly one added, the last one or the first one was deleted. We don't do anything for the 4 seconds and everything gonna be cleared, just like this. The same happens if I try to buy something like the donut or the bottle of whiskey. If I press and buy it, you may see here I have those elements added, like this, like this, like this. So the logic is kind of simple, it works completely fine, it looks great in my opinion. So yep, that's how it works, that's how it looks. Hopefully you find this tutorial useful, and I'm gonna add the sample project containing this feature to my Patreon, so you can, in case you don't want to recreate it on your own but you want to have it, you can buy it via the subscription. So yep, that's it, that's the end of the tutorial, and as always, please subscribe to my channel, leave your feedback, press like button, share with your friends. In case if you want to support me monetarily, you can find the link to my Patreon, and as I said, support me monetarily. And guys, see you soon.